This is Michaela McLean, and you're listening to Beauty by Design. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time to talk about our next gate. We're moving into gate 57. And before we do that, let me just remind you, if you have not yet, make sure that you go to grab my free human design guide to the basics. That will walk you through the 5 types. You get your free chart, and then we'll take you with the possibility to your $11 or type masterclass. That is a 1-hour class. It's going to take you through type, strategy, authority, not self signature, deconditioning tips, everything that you need to know to begin your experiment, to begin understanding all of this. And then I also have a yoga nidra, an energetic beauty sleep for each one of the type and authority combinations, 13 in all. Only one of them is actually going to apply to you. But the idea is that you just listen to it at bedtime, listen to it napping, resting, whatever, on the treatment table, or in your treatment room. There's a bundle for providers if you want to get that, play those during or facials and treatments. But it's just going to help you get into living. It's one thing to like learn some of this stuff, but then to actually live it is the magic sauce, and that takes time. Because I just see things popping up all the time, like people that really don't know and just incorrect information all the time. Like I'm 8 years into my experiment, and the basics are so important so that everything I'm actually talking about on here will begin to make sense. You know, you can pick the chart apart, even in bits and pieces, which is fun to do. I love that. But it's all about putting it back together, layering it, making it all make sense, um, and telling the story of you. But you need to learn those fundamentals first. And also, that's all you ever really need to learn. The other stuff is just amazing. It's so confirming, feels so good. But at the end of the day, you just need to be living your type, your strategy, your authority, everything that you're going to learn that 1-hour class. And that's like where you can fly from. And then, like I said, the Nidra is incredible because we can just bypass the conscious mind and start to embed that and live it correctly. So there you go. I just am always like, Larry, watch who you're taking your advice from and getting your information from on this stuff. Okay, so of course, links in the show note, links in my Instagram bio at Michaela McLean. Make sure you're following me over there where I share more of the, beauty and well-being tips that correspond along with human design and astrology and all of these energies. Okay, so let's get on to the episode. Reminder, don't try to understand this at the mental level. Let the sound current, the energy, and the frequency of beauty just sink into your cells like good skincare. Um, yeah, I love it. All right, so 57. We are continuing to progress through Libra and to gate 57 in human design, which is located in the spleen and part of both. This one's a complicated one, right? Part of both the integration channel or circuitry and the individual knowing circuitry. Okay, so I like to share the keynotes there. Integration is self empowerment, individual is empowerment, essentially, of others. Okay, it's nuanced. So we'll get further into that a little later in the episode. So this is the one really unique place in the chart where there is not just two ends to form one channel, but there are 4 gates that can come together and form various potential channels. People with individual circuitry have a deep inner knowing that they are here to be true to themselves, which leads to mutation, evolution, positive change in the world. And then, kind of a side note, people with the integration aspect, it's all about their survival, their preservation, you know, it's me, myself, and I. Again, we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay, so I call the spleen our inner caveman or wild animal. It's survival awareness. That's the purpose of that center. It's a survival awareness center. In its low expression, it's about fears and anxieties, but in its elevated expression, it governs instinct and intuition. It is not logical or sensical, it's intuitive instincts, it's existential. And this is the oldest center in the body graph. Basically it's like, why would that be? Is because our most primitive thing is just to stay alive. Okay, and it's awareness in the present moment. Physically, it correlates with the lymphatic and the immune systems. Okay, so gate 57 is known as the gentle. It's the gate of intuitive clarity. And the keynote here is the fear of the future, awareness to hear the truth in the now or not, fear of what the future will bring, so you hold back. And 57 is often considered the most intuitive gate in the entire chart, and it's linked up with sound specifically heard through the right ear. The presence of this gate indicates the possibility for hyper intuition. And it's about what you hear, literally, figuratively, internally, or externally in the moment, right here, right now. People with this energy often have the fear of the future. It's afraid of what tomorrow holds or if there will be a tomorrow. But that's the low expression. They can be clouded with uncertainty, oftentimes because they are busy. They're up in their minds, future tripping, freaking out. There's a tendency to become overwhelmed with anxiety about what life will bring next. Remember, worry is a prayer for things you don't want. I love that saying because, like if where your attention goes, energy flows. Like, if you spend your time worrying and freaking out about the future, what do you think that it's going to do for you? Right. And it's also from the spleen. Okay. The spleen is not logical. So people get intuitive hits that they either ignore or they question themselves rather than fight or flight, which is what this should kind of kick you into gear to do. It's freezing up, or it's just oblivious. It's rooted in not trusting yourself, not trusting your intuition, not trusting the universe path to just unfold for you. And, that's a little place to say it's like anxiety is not your intuition. Like anxiety is actually blocking you. Those fears and anxieties I always talk about with the awareness centers, it's blocking you from tapping into the gifts that your awareness centers and the intuition that these places hold, and specifically the spleen holds for you, being able to use the gifts there. So the high expression here is like be here now. Again, it's another Ram Dass one. When you're present and allow every little sound, noise, note, vibration to inform you from moment to moment, you will never be steered wrong. If you're truly present, there's nothing to fear. It's total clarity in the moment. Learning to trust your intuition absolutely shifts this from fear to from a fear and a weakness to a true superpower. You just know it in your bones. That's an individual element. Um, this gate has psychic abilities, to just know, hear, subtly sense what's coming next. Um, and kind of to elaborate on that again, this coming from the spleen, like I said, I call the spleen our inner caveman or inner wild animal. It's like if this were a little deer in the woods, let's go with the wild animal, analogy. It's like that deer is not up in its head. It's like, well, I don't know what I think about this. Like, oh, give me a minute. I need to kind of like marinate on that twig I just heard snap, or the whiff of a bear that I just got, or it's over in its feelings. Like, well, how do I feel about this? Maybe I need to sleep on it. It's like, peace out. Like, I heard something. I instinctually know this is not right for me, and I'm gone. And that's another thing. I saw somebody recently, and I was like, "Oh, good Lord," just shaking my head, talking about the spleen and the hell yes and the hell no, and then this and that. And I was like, no, 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 no. The spleen is just like, it's not good. It's not for me. Red flag. Go, go, go. Anyway, we'll get to more of that. I think I made some notes later. In the gene keys, the shadow is unease, the gift is intuition, and the city is clarity. And the gene keys states, from the point of view of the 57th gene key, absolutely everything in life is acoustic. Even light can be reduced down to a sonic signature. Even so, the sound spectrum that we human beings can access is actually very narrow. At the highest level, as we shall see, we humans are quite simply made up of layers of flickering and alternating sound waves. The 64 shadows are all states of consciousness governed by fear. To understand more precisely what we mean when we use the word fear, it may help to reduce it to a certain range of frequencies. If fear based states fall into a particular wave band, then we can see how easy it might be to adjust our own frequency and raise ourselves above this fear band. This does indeed sound easy. However, there's one thing we have to remember above all else: humanity collectively vibrates within the fear band frequencies. Therefore, as human beings, we are each under enormous pressure to resonate within these same frequencies. Every human being is like an acoustic tuning fork. If we are placed next to a powerful audio output source, before long we will automatically begin to vibrate at the same wavelength as that output. On planet Earth, this process is ensured through our childhood conditioning. The standard human output source, which is based on fear, is known as the 57th shadow of unease. Today, modern man has developed in a different direction. We are now far more polarized in our brains than our bodies, and most people make decisions through reason rather than intuition. This development changed the 57th shadow of unease. Unease no longer functions as an early warning system, restricting fear only to the moment when it is needed for survival. Side note, that is super important. Oh my goodness, right? It's like we're living in that space of unease and anxiety all the time rather than using it for the tool that it is, for the alarm system, the awareness, right? That this present moment is not safe. Do something about it. We just live in that space. Okay, back to Richard Rudd. Now, unease is translated by our minds. It is continuous and manifests as anxiety. Furthermore, because of this, it is enhanced through the universal morphogenetic field that connects all human beings as one. The mind has become stronger than instinct and seeks to end unease through the creation of external security. And so the rat race of modern culture is born. The more mind centered humanity becomes, the more security it tries to create for itself, and in turn, the more paranoid it becomes. Security and protection have become a global obsession, even though they are a complete illusion. Life is as uncertain as it ever was, and even for the wealthiest and most protected of human beings, the unease still remains. All of this fear and anxiety keeps human beings stuck in their heads from where it is very hard to escape. No form of thinking can take away the fear because the fear is there precisely because of the thinking. And he goes on to say, every time you trust in your intuition or make a decision based on it, you raise the frequency of your whole aura. The more the fear inside is transcended, at higher levels still, you will begin to sense vibrations through your whole body. One of the great revelations you may have through the 57th gift is that fear is not inside you. It is a field you may live in, pass through, or ascend beyond. Evolving your so called sixth sense is the first stage in this process of vibratory ascension because it allows you to access the universal quantum field or collective unconsciousness. Once your body becomes lighter and vibrates at higher frequencies, you enter an amazing world known by many names in different traditions. This is the world of the gods and goddesses, or what theosophists call the casual plane. On this level, the higher mind begins to function, although it has little in common with the mind as we experience it at lower frequencies. The nature of the higher mind is clairaudience, the ability to pick up vibrations through your aura and interpret them through your brain. It is from this casual plane or Seinfeld that all great revelations and spiritual knowledge are downloaded into human beings. Obviously, such revelations occur at various frequency bands within the gift level itself, and the purity of the messages depend on the frequency of the aura that is receiving them. So he also says intuition is how nature talks to and through human beings. It is the auditory canal through which the whole coordinates and communicates with its many parts. If we humans can attune ourselves to this gentler, subtler internal voice, we will finally begin to feel physically at ease. And then he also says the process of learning to again trust in your intuition is nothing less than the dismantling of the illusion that you are separate from life. Okay, so my notes here, you can have it on its own. You can have 57 by itself, but if it connects to other gates, plural, right? So that one spot in the chart, it will form various different channels. that could either be projected or generated. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is highly individual, and it's very much about knowing what is correct for you in the given moment for your survival, which is survival of the species. So if you just boil it right down to just the gate by itself, it is individual. Okay, clairaudience, right? So this is clear hearing and claircognizance, clear knowing, right? So that's what lives in this particular gate. Um, again, intuition for survival, for self-preservation. So clearly hearing what you're hearing and then having a knowing about what that means or the knowing, just period. And again, individual circuitry just knows. And this is also a place I was thinking about, I would compare it to like gate 19, you know, um, because the presence of a specific gate, kind of can heighten other things in the chart. Like my point bringing up 19, like I'm a 19 person, it sensitizes the entire chart. When you have the presence of 57, it's kind of doing the same thing. It's pumping up the volume, pun intended, very much intended. It's pumping up the volume on all the other intuitive gifts that you contain in your chart because they are many, from specific centers, specific gates, um, way deeper layers of the chart that are not even on just like the basic surface stuff. So many cool things. And I think that's so helpful. Like I've been thinking about doing a workshop specifically on, the intuitive gifts to find in the chart. Because to hear this whole thing and be like, well, I don't have the 57, for example, but I got a lot of other stuff, and everyone is built so different. All the conglomeration of like what makes you you is fascinating. And we don't all receive our intel the same way. To go off on another little tangent, when I see specific even techniques and stuff, like this is the tool, and in this case, there's something I just saw the other day, and it was like a physical tool. Like this is how you're going to intuitively know how to like da 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 da. And I'm like, no, that's not something that calls to me, doesn't draw me in. That's not my preferred method. Or, I have friends who I mean, I various different friends, and basically all this to say is like the way that they receive their information and their intel. It's like, wow, that is so vastly different from me, and it could lead a person to think like, wow, I'm not intuitive. I'm like, no, girl, you are. You are just conditioned to think it's coming in a different way. Like, I always jokingly say, it's like, the ghosts aren't popping out and talking to you. It's like, that's not my gig, but I'm like, I receive messages through, or insight or my intuitive hits, let's say, through totally different means, you know? So I think when you understand that and understand it, your chart, and then you can begin to trust what you actually have so much more because they're yours and that feels right. And you're like, wow, I just didn't know that that was like, those were my gifts. So then you can love on them, turn up the volume on them, strengthen them, and yeah, become like really just strong, proficient in what that is and knowing how you receive it. Anyway, stay tuned. I feel like that's coming on. This writing this gate, it kind of inspired me. I was like, maybe I just need to do a class on that. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Like I mentioned, 57 is highly attuned to sound, music, vibration. It's associated specifically with hearing from the right ear, you know, and it is highly, highly, highly acoustically tuned. And although this is not one of the gates of deafness in the chart, it also does still contain the potential for not hearing others, because it's filtering and screening the environmental noise for what is actually important. Like, what is a threat to my survival? Again, back to that fight or flight. It's like, I might not be listening, because it's like, there's something instinctual in this person that's really listening for like, cues in their environment. So they're missing maybe the unimportant stuff, like they're filtering that out. Um, and then I was like, oh, and then speaking of how tuned into the auditory, the acoustics, music, all that specifically that this gate is. It's so cute. Both my husband and daughter have the channel of power, the 57 to 34, which we're going to get to in a second. And like, I mean, I'm a music lover. Hello, gate 22, girl. I got Venus exalted in Pisces, but this, and which is actually, it's so funny I say that because that's the left ear. This is the right ear. I'm more over on the side. It's like what's worth listening to and like, kind of being a snob about stuff. And this is like I said, this is music soothing the savage beast, like the actual instinctual thing. Like he cooks all the time. He has to have music on. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So we'll move on. So yeah, so I'm like, but think of where this originates from, like at the end of the day, it's coming from the spleen, again, health, wellness, well-being, your survival. Its job is to keep you alive. If somebody comes up and scares you unintentionally, like they didn't even mean to, you're just like off in la la land. You're not in that mindful place. So again, there's that little deer in the woods, it's like I'm alert to what's happening and in the present moment rather than, over here, like I said, thinking or worrying or, blah, 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 rather than being here and in the moment. Okay. Um, because again, it's not about what I think. It's not about feeling and it's not about being excited. Where I was saying I saw something and somebody getting the spleen totally wrong. Like, oh, if it's a hell yes. I'm like, no, that's not the spleen at all. This is truly like, you know, boom, I gotta go. It's all good till it's not good. Red flag. We gotta boogie. The spleen is very quiet. It's very subtle. I like to talk about it's the cat versus the puppy dog. Like the cat is like, ew, like I'm only going to tell you once and it's going to be subtle and you better read my cues and I'm out of here. Whereas like a puppy dog, is like the sacral and it's like, yes, 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 yes. Or no, like pulling away. And it's going to give you the same answer, like, oh, you know what I mean? Over and over. Where the spleen is like in the moment, subtle, and it's gone. It's like you think of like a whisper. And the sacral is just like you put the thing that's like exciting me in front of me, it's just going to continue to be excited. I hope that's making sense. So like the nuances between those centers. And again, the spleen is just like, I told you once, I'm not telling you again, get out of here, this is not right for you. So yeah, so if you have this, you have that gate, you have even that center defined, it's like that mindful presence is a gift that you want to cultivate. Oh, so then moving on to even like I said, the circuitry. So integration to parcel these out, because again, depending on which channel this is making, this can make individual and it can make a integration. It can come from either one of those places. So integration is wired to be all about themselves. Okay. That is self-empowerment. It's not concerned with others. Period. End of story. It's me and my survival versus the empowerment from the individual circuitry, which helps bring change and mutation to other people. So integration and like this comes from like from the official books and things. It's self-absorbed, self-sufficient, self-assured, not about the others. And when we get down to its channel partners, we'll talk about how that is parceled out. Okay, so the programming partner though, so if the sun is in 57 in Libra, the earth is automatically opposite in Aries in gate 51, and 51 is known as the arousing, it's the gate of shock. And the keynote with this one is to be competitive, to be first at something. And I always describe this as the big bang, it's that Aries energy that's not afraid to go first, lead the way, do its thing. And when it's in its low, it can just do things for shock value, stir the pot, and be ultra, ultra competitive versus being inspiring and empowering, which it's part of individual. And, trying to one up other people, always win. But the high expression is definitely to shock people out of their comfort zones, wake them up. I would say that's like kind of a shaman-like quality here. And it's that ability to take people and, help others even make the quantum leap into like a new way of being. So yeah, it helps to push other people and itself, to the edges of their sort of abilities, or whatever, for the sake of expansion and growth. Okay. So channel partners, possible channel partners that make complete channels with gate 57 are Sagittarius gates 34 or gate 10, and then Gemini gate 20. So I'm going to kind of briefly run through these. Obviously, they all have their own episodes. Gate 10, if 57 connects to 10, this is the channel of perfected form, intuitively knowing the correct behavior for oneself. This is integration. This is self-empowerment. This is about me, myself, and I. Okay, so then if this connects to gate 20, this creates the channel of the brainwave, speaking and manifesting intuitively in the now, hearing in the present moment. This one is individual. So this is about empowerment of others, right? Little side note on this one, it's like my friend Agent RX, Josh, he has this channel. And I was, before we went to Aesthetic Next, I said, oh, you have this to lean on, so hard, because other people are going to see you up there. And it's like, what's the spleen concerned about? Survival. And what is it? It's like, oh God, what are so many people afraid of? Like speaking, public speaking. And I'm like, here you are, you're up there, you're empowering other people that they can do this too. They can get out of their comfort zones. And I was like, that's a really beautiful example of like using the channel of the brainwave to do your thing. And then if 57 connects to 34, there's the channel of power. This is interesting because here we have the spleen, which is our cat in this like metaphor, analogy, whatever, and then the sacral of the dog working together. Okay, so this is empowered. It's self-empowerment. This is integration. It's empowering itself through waiting to respond, acting based on the sacral response in the moment. Okay, this is true fight or flight right here. It is not about thinking at all. Neither one of those, it's like those are not thinking centers. This is all about responding to the present moment, in the present moment, and it's the power to keep yourself alive. They just say in the book, it says, finely honed to your individual survival. It does not take into account the needs and wants of anyone other than you. Okay. Again, that is the hallmark, the notes of that integration circuitry. Okay, so individual circuitry, like I said, there's the empowerment versus integration's self-centeredness from the book. Don't shoot me. Integration circuitry, right? Like I said, it's designed to be self-absorbed. It's unavailable to others. It's self-sufficient, self-assured. It's correct for them, and hopefully if it's in a high vibe way, you're not trying to hurt anybody else, but at the end of the day, you're not concerned with others, versus the empowerment of others that comes naturally from the individual circuitry. Like this person's just being their unique self, and therefore, that empowers other people. So they are different. Like I said, integration, self-empowerment, don't give up, about anybody but yourself. It's about you or survival. Individual, empowering others to be also their own unique individual. Okay. And I just stress that because it's like there's so much nuance in the chart. And even just hearing that about yourself and understanding that and not feeling attacked and being like, oh my God, I am so self-centered, or something like that. It's like you were built that way. You were designed that way on purpose, like for a reason. And sometimes you'll see a chart and it's like they have integration, but then they have like all this tribal stuff going on, or collective. It's like there are different parts and layers to you. But when you understand that, you're like, why do I always act this way about, say, these subjects, or, something like that? Like, say it's like, I don't know, food, for instance, is like, why do I always feel like I need to be the first one to get fed? And like, I need, like things like that. It's like, you might find little cues in your chart, maybe something that maybe it's been family members or whomever has always made you feel bad about. And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's just the way that I'm designed. This to me, I'm going off on a tangent again. this is the beauty of human design, in my opinion. It's the healing that you get from it. And it's not that you're needing, you need to be healed. It's more like your perspective, the way you view yourself, the way you judge yourself. That's the part that needs to be healed. So, so like I said, I mean, this is one, like I said, when you talk about integration, I could see people being triggered by that and instead being like, or can it empower you? Can it make you feel better about things? And just be like, I'm just hardwired for survival. That's it. You know, like it's okay. It's okay. For some reason, I was designed this way. Anyway, so as I was saying, I don't have the 57, but I have two of the channel partners. I only have one channel in my entire chart, the 3410. That one's individual. It is about empowering other people to love and accept themselves. Oh my goodness. What are we just talking about? But in this case, it's like this is cool. So I could look at my chart and be like, oh, I'm getting 57s coming into the mix for a little while. So that means my intuition will be super powered. It will be adding to the mix of these other two gates that are already always turned on and doing their thing. So like check your chart, see if something similar might be happening. But this is actually, it's so sweet. This is my daughter's sun gate, my little Libra. And whole, like again, when you see these traits so strongly in people, it's her conscious sun. So this is the biggest energy in her chart. 70% of the neutrinos that make up this child is gate 57. She's a 4-6. It's like, and she's a true 4-6. We laugh because and actually we watched Encanto again. I hadn't seen it in a really long time. We watched it again. And I'm like, oh, yep. Yeah, Auntie Dolores, that's her. She can hear. It's so wild. She's like, I tease her. I'm like, you're like a bat. Like where the sonar or whatever, how they know where to go based on, it's wild. It's so wild to me. Um, her hearing ability, and she also very, very intuitive, so wildly intuitive, really like sees things and stuff. But she also has the whole side of like getting tripped up about the future. And another thing, I've said all this about her before, but another thing that I've always said to my husband too, since she was teeny, teeny, tiny, if she gets hurt, to no fault of anybody else, and thank God neither one of my children have had any sort of like major, like accidents or anything, knock on wood. She's always reacted like a wild, like I would say, it's like she's like a wild animal. It's like very, um, it's fascinating how these things happen. But anyway, just again, observations that you're like, wow, this is a different type of reaction from this child than maybe another one. So, what do you do? And it's like I'm just constantly looking at and observing. I'm a 4-1. I'm observing everybody, and trying to like make sense of everyone all the time. Um, and one of the other things I like to throw in, I know I did this last time I did 57, but I was a ballet dancer growing up. I danced for the School of American Ballet. That is New York City Ballet School. Those were both, they're George Balanchine's, you know, babies. Um, and he had a lot of famous quotes, obviously, in that world. He was, he's a very famous choreographer. Um, but he would tell dancers, there was one. He said, "Why are you stingy with yourselves? Why are you holding back? What are you saving for? For another time? There are no other times. There's only now, right now." And then another one that I always loved, he was again very famous for like saying this, and variations of it was, "Don't think, dear, do." So of course, I love to pull people's charts because I'm like, where's this coming from? Like what do they have in here? And his design side, so the body unconscious, his Mercury, so the way he thinks, communicates, all of that was in gate 57. I mean, come on. So astrologically, we've got Libra 57, and we're either going to have a sextile with Sagittarius, which could be the 34, it could be the 10. If it's gate 10 is a bridge gate between Sagittarius and Capricorn. So that could either create a square with, if it's moved into Capricorn, then you're getting a square. or it's an air trine with Gemini's gate 20. And this is happening in the third quarter of the wheel, purpose fulfilled through relationships. And in this case, I think of it as your relationships to your surroundings, the environment, what you're hearing in those environments, and being present where you are with who you're around, all of that, your relationship to that. And then on a beauty and well-being note, if you find yourself, because again, whether you have this gate or not, you're going to experience it through the transits or through other people. And if you find yourself future tripping this week, or, like you have it all the time, right? And you are just a future tripper. If you find yourself like worrying, feeling uneasy about what hasn't even happened yet, you find yourself in that anxious place, then take a breath, ground down. I always like to give this as a little prescription, air quotes, to people with this energy. It's like a simple five senses practice. Take a minute to focus on what you can smell, taste, touch, see, and most importantly, hear in the present moment, in the here and now. This helps to decrease nervousness by dropping out of the mind, out of that anxious mind and into the body, and basically realizing like, oh, I'm safe. You know, I'm safe where I'm at right now. And acknowledging, like I said, that you're physically safe can then help you notice the cues that your intuition is trying to give you about the next right step. And then I would also recommend, possible, just really, really being tuned into the music, even the messages that what you're listening to is giving you. And I mean that as in like, do you listen to stuff that's very low vibe, or are you listening to things that is like more positive and uplifting? But also maybe you are getting cues in the message. Who am I to say? But also time to consider sound healing, sound baths, tuning forks, all of that good stuff, singing bowls. But that's also a really great way. It's like on a personal level to be able to do all this stuff. But this is something that if you are in the treatment room, you can also help your clients with these elements. Okay. So I'm always posting on Instagram, the accompanying slides to go with this to kind of give you more detailed information, frequencies to use, crystals, essential oils. So follow over there if that interests you, the beauty and well-being aspect. Yeah. And then do you have the scape? So the spleen is on the left-hand side. It's the triangle. It's going to be pointing up toward the throat. If you have it, it's going to be colored in black, red, or red and black. Means you have it defined somewhere in your chart. If it's white, that's what mine looks like. Check those other gates. The 34, the 10, or the 20. Do you have one of those or more than one colored in? You're going to be getting a channel or channels temporarily for about approximately the next 6 days, and see what that means. Does your intuition feel superpowered at this time? Okay, I will be back soon with more. If this episode was of value to you, please think about leaving it a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I would appreciate it so much in exchange for my time and my knowledge. And I always say it's a labor of love, giving this out to everyone and share it. There's lots of people that are interested in human design now more than ever. And this is a line one library. It's a resource. And if you want to learn more human design, of course, check out my free guide to the basics, the $11 classes, and the yoga nidras that will help you live your design. And of course, there's more things coming all the time. You can follow me over on Instagram at Michaela McLean. And of course, until next time, have a beautiful day.